Welcome back to Word Blindness, Dyslexia Exposed. I'm Juliet Hahn, and I'm here with my co-host Brent Sopel. How are you on this Monday?
I'm all right. You?
I'm good. So today, we've talked about this in other episodes, but sometimes we come in really giggly, really up. Other times we kind of come in a little bit more somber because there's a lot of stuff that, as we have said, that is going on behind the scenes, and really good stuff, but sometimes it's a little exhausting. Sometimes it's a little overwhelming, and we're just going to be honest. But today, what we wanted to talk about is something that can be a little controversial. Both of us love controversy, right? But this is in a different kind of controversy. It is the word neurodiverse. We have conversations about this a lot. We actually just had someone on that probably the episode would have already launched, and we talk about it a little in there. So this might not be new for our listeners to hear us talk about this. But the reason why we wanted to talk about the word neurodiversity and the reason why it has tweaked us a little bit is there's a number of different things. And I'm going to go on a little bit of a rant, and then I'm going to let you kind of jump in.
Lead away.
Yeah. So one of the things with IEPs, we have all in the resource tab things that everyone needs to do. But in an IEP in certain states, and you may have heard us say this before, but certain states, what it says is a specific learning difference. That's what it is. It's an LD specified. They cannot put dyslexia, dysgraphia, ADHD, dyscalculia. I believe autism is in there as well, but I don't 100% know that. I don't know if autism, and that's something actually I want to start researching. I don't know if autism can be on an IEP. Do you know that? If someone is on the high, like if they're Asperger's or whatever?
I'm not 100%. I'm pretty sure they can. There's your thumbs up.
I guess Zoom agrees with us.
I'm not 100%, but I'm pretty sure that they are. And I'll explain, you can continue going.
Thank you. So kind. Thank you. So the reason why that is a problem, and I mean, I think you can kind of come to the conclusion, is that if a teacher gets an IEP and it just says specific learning disability, how is a teacher going to actually address and help that student? So it's like two people going in blind. If the student's allowed to talk about it, a lot of times the student is not comfortable 100% with it, so they're not going to talk about it. So it's all of a sudden this word neurodiversity came about. It was always on the autism spectrum. So that's where we all kind of heard it first. It was neurodiverse, you were autism. And then all of a sudden, somehow, somewhere, they decided to throw dyslexia and dysgraphia and ADHD and dyscalculia in there. And I know why they did, because we've had a lot of conversations with people that it is now the world celebrating neurodiverse. Your brain thinks different. The reason why you and I have a problem, and I'll let you talk about what your problem is. The reason why I have a problem is because, again, it is an umbrella of a word that there's so many different things in there. How is someone getting the understanding? I am dyslexic. I'm dyscalculia, and I am ADHD. I'm not dysgraphic, and I'm not autistic. And there's other things that are thrown in there. So I don't like that label. When people talk about like, oh, labels. I don't mind having the dyslexia, ADHD, dyscalculia. That's a label that's as you talk, it's a roadmap. It helps me know how I need to learn. It also helps me talk to people of how I need to kind of interpret information. When you just say neurodiverse, it is so broad that how are you going to separate and help in the workforce, in school? I think someone, this is where, and then I'm going to let you go. I think somewhere, it's like, okay, certain groups get loud and certain other groups are like, how can we just appease the group? Let's just put them all under neurodiversity. So, okay, it's a different way of thinking, and let's all celebrate that and then make everyone feel good. I don't like that. And actually, I'm going to get really annoyed, and I'm trying. If you're autistic, if you're other things, that's awesome. But it should be separated, because our brains are different, and it is different. Each dyslexic person's brains are slightly different, but there's also a little bit more understanding and a little bit more similarities when you're dyslexic, when you're ADHD, when you're just ADD, right? There's all these different things. And I know you're like nipping, you're like holding it. So I'm really proud of you.
There's a lot of different ways to go. I kind of went down the rabbit hole and go to find out where that, where that word came in and how this came in play. I think it's in, late, 1990s. Judy Singer, I want to say. She's from Australia,
An
an
activist.
activist for autism. That created the word, and as you referenced, that's where it started. There's a few things. Autism, as I've said, if I can copy autism for the dyslexic world, do what they're doing, we're all going to be in a better place.
The resources
Yeah,
and stuff.
the resources, the knowledge, the understanding, the awareness, everything, the funding from A to Z. They are 10, 100 million, quadrillion, billion miles ahead of us, on the dyslexic world. So amazing things. But you want to clump us all together in this. First off, I always talk about dyslexia. They always say, "Oh, it's a gift. It's a gift. A gift." I was 95% of us don't even ever get to that point to say it's a gift. Can it be a gift? Absolutely, but we can't. We got to have the understanding. We have the awareness, the testing, all that to make it a gift. But most of us don't even get that opportunity because there's not enough of the awareness, the understanding, the testing, so on and so forth. Then also underneath it, we have no funding. We don't have anything, when it comes to that. So you put us under an umbrella led by autism. We're the ugly stepsisters. We're lost, right? Dyslexia has been around since the late 1800s.
Mm-hmm.
And autism, it came to surface, 15 years ago. Autism Speaks is when it was founded, right? Everybody knows where it is. So we're basically hiding in the basement of a house, and autism's got the first 10 floors, and we're still, trying to figure out where that door is to the basement. So, I have that, we're different people, but they have all the awareness. They have, no, I shouldn't say they don't have they've got a lot more than we do. They got more understanding. They've got schools, they've got rooms, they've got, everything that comes with it. We don't have anything. So now keeping us under that and celebrating our brain, being different. Most of us don't even understand. We don't even get to that point to celebrate that. So we have to understand before we can celebrate. How are you going to celebrate something that you don't understand? And if we have to drill through that floor, and dig through the autism, information and all that, then by the time we get to us, is there any energy left? Is there any money left? Is there any, any resources, any of those kind of things? So we need to be our own people. People always say, you got to advocate for yourself. You got to understand it before you can advocate. If we have to stay underneath there, hide underneath the autism, umbrella is not the right word, but neurodiverse should be, keep it autism. The 4Ds that that you and I talked about, is a separate thing. Obviously dyslexia, 1 in 5, 40% of us have ADHD, 80% have learning disorder. So it's a drastic number. So why are we underneath? So we talk about learning differently, being proud of who you are, but we're still at the bottom of that scale. When you talk about, neurodiverse, first thing that comes up, autism. So you talk about being on the same level and being a great thing, but still we're on the bottom of those words.
Yeah, because and I think in the beginning, I remember, because I'm trying to think of when it kind of came about where it was really more talked about, and I want to say it's the last couple of years, but I remember I started using it, and then every time I was like, I don't think I like this. And I remember I had a couple people say to me, "Oh, are you on the autism spectrum?" And I said, "No." I said, "Why?" And they were like, "Well, you're using the word neurodiverse." And I was like, "Well, I think that's encompassing everything." And that's what kind of stopped. Again, I'm not saying anything negative. It's just it's different. It's different. It's not, we're not the same. And so the understanding of what someone with autism versus someone with dyslexia is different. It is completely different. And so, and again, I'm going to say something and it could be wrong. So let's just hold this for a second. But dyslexia is a learning style. It's a learning. And I know disability is not PC anymore. Whatever. It's a learning difference.
I always say disability because it gets more attention right now than, difference. So I'm using that purposely as a disorder, right? To get more attention than a difference.
Right. And a lot of kids with autism, I shouldn't say a lot because I'm not going to say that. People that I know that are on the higher spectrum of autism are really, really good in school. It's not school is not the issue. They can learn. They're really, really, really smart. It's the social side that they struggle. I don't struggle on the social side. So I don't want to. I don't, and I know some dyslexics do
Mhm.
struggle on the social side. So again, there's a whole spectrum.
Right.
But if you're using a word, then you have to explain, well, no, I'm just this. I was like, well, this is stupid. Now it's the word is making me having to explain more. And that then annoys me because communicating is one of my really strong points. And then I'm like, well, what the fuck? This is not getting the word. And so I think that's what then tweaked me. And then I started thinking about it. And I said to you, someone said it, and I was like, I fucking hate that word. And you go,
Yeah.
oh my God, so do I. And I was like, okay, let's dive into why we both hate this.
It's, we're all, we're trying to learn more about and understand the second most common thing in the world. And the second most common thing, and we're still, again, I keep telling you, is underneath somebody else, something else. I think the last stat I saw was 1 in 45 are autism and not hereditary. So obviously, big difference there in the hereditary portion. So why are we still second most common thing, being put below everything else? Because you can't see it. So
Right.
it's you know you know separating it. It's different things. We do different things. Like so, if I need to find a dyslexic reading specialist, I don't call autism speak.
Right.
And ask for references. You know, you broke your ankle. You don't go to the eye doctor,
At least you hope not.
right?
You're not getting the right answers.
Right. So,
Yeah.
um, again, they're trying to celebrate. You know, be able to think differently. Most people don't even know there is. So again, they've done an amazing job. Autism and the founders of Autism Speaks of bringing the awareness and the
Mhm.
attention and the understanding from top to bottom, from Congress to they have everybody knows it, they understands it. Like Trump put in a $1.4 billion bill for it. They got they've done a phenomenal job. Again, if I could duplicate that, us dyslexic will be amazing, right? So we got an uphill battle already. We're creating, the biggest uphill battle and the second most common thing, right? Cancer gets most diagnosis, funding than anything in the world. Right? And we're the second thing, and we get nothing. So we've already got an uphill battle. Let's not make it uphill or hill or higher, or however we want terminology. It's more, right?
Right.
Um, yes, and again, you talk the brain. We're talking about the brain. Somebody said, a scientist where like we know like 5% about the brain. Oh, it's fascinating. There's so much that goes to it. Where that word could go, so why start underneath the umbrella? Let's separate and try and make one thing a little bit easier and not trying to climb over something else.
Yeah, and I think the word I was looking for is I think someone tried to appease the community and it was almost like let's just shut them up and let's do this. And I could be so wrong, but I felt like it was almost like going into an IEP meeting and they're like, "We'll just put this to shut
Mm.
her up."
Well,
Right? And that's kind
again,
of how I feel about it.
she's an
Honestly.
activist for autism with no understanding of this. So, again, everything we talk about, how does that make sense? That, somebody who's, again, 20 years ago or whatever, 40 years ago, I can't, me and my math, but not even just, I love, a dyslexic advocate. No, an autism activist, that put it there. So again, back to
Yeah.
the dyslexic world, somebody else who's got no understanding, who doesn't have it, telling us what we can do. And I couldn't disagree a million different ways that, I don't like this. I don't think it's right. There's no understanding again, back to that understanding portion.
Well, and dyslexia, as we've talked about in the past, was referred to as word blindness, and it was founded by an eye doctor, a German eye doctor. So if someone's listening to this and like, well, we really have come a long way. Yes, right.
Oh yeah.
They thought it had to do with the eyes. Right? It was the way you saw. And even when, my son was diagnosed, you did the whole vision therapy, and I'm not going to go into all of that. I mean, it was torture. And I think, yes, vision therapy helps for certain things. So there's things that we have made huge leaps with, but it's leaps, but then there's such a disconnect of the way it's being distributed throughout the world. There's such a disconnect in so many different spots. And then putting it under an umbrella where it's just like, okay, now we're kind of putting it here because maybe this will appease. Again, someone might be listening to this and be like, that's not what's happening. That's how I feel. This is my opinion. This is how I feel. I could be, in the facts incorrect, but I don't think so. I don't think there's I don't think anyone really has looked into different things and are like, okay, this makes sense because of X, Y, and Z. Again, our guest explained why he liked the word, and I thought that was a really good thing. But then when we explained to him why we didn't, he was like, oh.
Everybody wants to celebrate, thinking differently. But, nobody, I shouldn't say nobody, very few people know there is a way to do that. So if, again, we're so far, I think, we're putting the cart before the horse, and, in my opinion, of there's not enough understanding to be able to celebrate it. When you're having a party by yourself, every day, obviously not a lot of fun. Let's bring some more people in to have that party with you, right? So, and that party in Neurodiverse, let's have some more people at that party with that understanding. Then you can celebrate that. But very few of us can celebrate that because there's nobody else to celebrate with the understanding. You go to the classroom, and how many, as we talk about this all the time, how many people are understanding my vision, dyslexia, less than 20% of the world has it. 10% are so embarrassed they don't talk about it. So we're talking single digits of any understanding. So how can you celebrate something that's small? In my mind, do we want to get there? Yes, 1,000,000%. Is that something that we can collaborate together with down the road? Maybe, but it's a hard enough hill to climb. Why are we adding more bricks, to our backpack?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and some of the stuff, like some people, when we talk about different percentages and different things, we've done polls, we've talked to so many people where it's, I just thought this dyslexia was flipping your B's and D's. And right, isn't like Richard Branson and all, like so many famous actors, and you're more athletic and all of these really great things. 100%. We are not saying that that's not true or anything, because, obviously we're in that community as well. The thing when you're saying that no one has the deep understanding of dyslexia because of the narrative that we get time and time again. And it's like, oh, wow. Okay. This is really interesting, especially since we started the podcast. It's really interesting that people will reach out and like, I had no idea. I would hear dyslexia and I would think, oh, they just flip their B's and D's. They don't realize what goes into in a day of what you have to do. And I'm going to give you an example right now. For college, there's all of this paperwork and stuff to fill out. And it's all done in this new techie kind of way. I'm pretty tech, but something is glitchy. And Montgomery and I are just going back and forth like, oh my God, like, okay. And it is the simplest thing for someone else is not simple for us. But we just get through it because it is what it is. And that's what we're used to. But the simplest things, the emails that are, 12 pages that people send, no, stop that. And you have to read it, especially if you're, working or whatever it is. There's little things that people don't think about when it comes to a day to day. And that's what we are referring to. We're referring to, yes, there's a lot, we know the Yales, we know the Vanderbilts, we know all these people that are doing research. And so there is, someone could be listening to this, we're like, well, I know that this college does this. I know that this college does this. I know that this place does this. A lot of people are researching different things. And so we have more of an understanding of the brain since, 1800s, obviously. However, the execution worldwide on dyslexia, dysgraphia, dyscalculia, all of these different things is still so disjointed in our opinion that is a lot of the problem.
Yeah, then you talk about everything else. There's not, the brain is so complex, right? It's so complex. We got a lot of learning to do. And there's so many different varieties, of that. So again, we deal with this, every day, the calls that I get, with no understanding. People don't have that understanding. And we want to celebrate something we don't understand. We got to understand it first. And there's a lot to it. I think there's a heck of a lot more understanding in the autistic world about autism and where it is and how, there's still a lot more to go, but they're laps and laps and laps ahead of us. We're the ugly stepchild, left behind when it comes to understanding, knowledge, resources. So, beating a dead horse, but we have to create our own path. I believe in educate before we can change, but it's, the dyslexic, people have the understanding, and it's people who have the best understanding of it, is to create that path. You take a look in Washington or in Canada, in Ottawa or, Parliament, and most people don't have dyslexic, ADHD, dysgraphic, but they're the one that is leading the charge, when it comes to this. So, we could go up and down. It's just, we got to create our own, in my mind. We got to separate ourselves till we get more understanding of what that means and what comes along with it, what we need to do and advocate and to be able to change the world. All I hear all the time is you got to change the education system, but nobody knows what that means.
Mm-hmm. And so I would love for our listeners to weigh in, send us a message. You can go to Instagram. You can either go, mine is I am Juliet Hahn, or you can go to Brent Sopel, or you could go to the Sopel Foundation, or you could go to Word Blindness. There's many places you could find us. Yeah. And let us know what your thoughts are on the word neurodiversity, if you agree with us or disagree with us, because we love that. We love a little, kind of throwing things in there to make people think and to talk about things, because that is where, when you talk about it, you bring it to light, you have conversations, you educate people. That's where the knowledge comes in. And when someone all of a sudden might think about the word and be like, you know what, I didn't think about it that way. And they have a point, right? Or they might say, no, this is why I think it is. And then I would also love to know, right? Are you dyslexic, dysgraphic, dyscalculia, ADHD, autistic, whatever? Because as you said, the brain does so much. Even with, and I'm going to take it to a woman thing for a second now. When our hormones, the brain, there's so much still learning about menopause and all of that. And I'm fascinated with that because that's also, an area that I'm headed into. Oh, joy. And there's not a lot talked about it. And all of a sudden, when I've talked to a couple people that are ADHD and I've explained to them how I know, like if my estrogen's dropping, they're like, oh my God, how do you know that? And I'm like, I'm just so self-aware of my own self. But when then I go to look in online or ask other questions and it's not out there. And so as much as we know about the brain, as you said, there's so much that we don't. A developing boy with different, hormones, like there's so many things that go into it. So I would love to leave it there. Unless you have some more that you want to add.
No, I was just trying to go because I know she's an activist. I just didn't know what her background was to that. Is she a neuropsych or
Oh, right. What did you find it?
That's what I was just trying to but bring that up to just kind of elaborate with that. She had that testing or that knowledge behind it.
Right, because it'll be interesting. I can't even spell it, which is so annoying.
So, again, Judy.
Yeah, Judy Singer. Yep, you got it.
Yeah. So I just wanted to see if is there any information on her, her background, other than the activist.
Yeah, so it also says neurodiversity first appeared in a publication in 1998 in an article by an American journalist, Harvey Bloom, as a I don't even know, portmanteau, I don't know, of words. So she's the one that was using it, and then it was published. She's an Australian sociologist.
Honor fellowship in London.
So her daughter and her own mother were diagnosed with Asperger's. And I don't know who was the person whose bright idea was to like, so it was already around to then, and again, I think it was just kind of like, let's appease people. Here's a great term that has understanding in one community. Let's just put all the people that have different brains under it, because of all the yelling that we do about, there's a lot of pockets of people that, are fighting. And
yeah, and I gotta obviously dig this. It sounds like what confused us was that autism tended to be understood as a clearly different condition, largely associated with people who are either nonverbal or had very limited speech. She finally spoke to people on Autism Association in Australia. So I don't know. Again, we'll have to.
Yeah.
You and I reading.
Right. We can dive, but I think it's because it was her daughter and her mother were Asperger's.
Yeah. I guess so. We'll dive into it a little bit more. Decided to write the thesis focused on the online communities she was now a part of.
Mm-hmm.
So again, so we'll dive into a little bit more to find out if she has autism or Asperger's, or anything else.
And I think it's, and again, because she might have in this little piece, and again, it's like a quick Google, it just says her mom and her daughter. So I wonder if, when her daughter was like her mom, she started diving into it and was like, what is, what is it kind of thing. So, but I mean, that's the point, as you said, like, where did it come from? But then also we're going to dive a little bit more. We just kind of wanted to bring it out there, but we're going to dive a little bit more into when and who decided, whose bright idea was to put the rest of all these together. Yeah. And I kind of have a feeling I can kind of picture the person that did it, and it was a giant douche, but maybe we should take that out. But I'm sorry. It was someone that, whatever. I'm not going to go there because, as I said, this is not negative. This is not a bashing thing. I'm just curious. We're curious because
right idea, right idea, maybe wrongly delivered.
Yeah, I love that. Yep, I think so. So again, reach out to us. Let us know what your thoughts are on the whole word of neurodiversity. Do you agree with us? Do you disagree with us? But don't just send us a DM, disagree. We want a little bit more context. You can do that, but then you're going to get a question asked. Yeah, exactly. So thank you for joining Word Blindness, Dyslexia Exposed. We say it every single time. Like, rate, review, and share. You don't know who needs to hear this, but we also want to get this conversation started. We really want this narrative to start being talked about because it is obviously very important to us. And we want to get a little background and hear what other people have to say that have been touched by someone with dyslexia, dysgraphia, dyscalculia, ADHD, again, also autism. I mean, I would love to know what the autism community thinks of putting this all under the umbrella. I have a feeling they probably think it's also like, well, hey, why are they with us, right? Why are they in the same car with us?
And then,
And
I don't even
shouldn't
know
say
if that's
that.
a fair question, because they don't have the understanding, as we don't have the understanding to them. They don't have the understanding to us because they don't have it.
Right. And right. So we'll just leave it at that. Boom. Okay.